Hi, I'm Harry Shier, and my chapter in Children and Young People's Participation in Child Protection is called Children Claiming the Right to Live Without Violence in Nicaragua. In this short video, I'll tell you what my chapter is about and show you some photos to illustrate the examples in the chapter. My chapter starts by defining a rights-based approach to keeping children safe. At the heart of a rights-based approach lies Article 19 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, which says, States parties shall take all appropriate legislative, administrative, social and educational measures to protect the child from all forms of physical or mental violence, injury or abuse, neglect or negligent treatment, maltreatment or exploitation, including sexual abuse, whilst in the care of parents, legal guardians or any other person who has the care of the child. But rights do not stand alone, so we must also take account of Article 28.2. School discipline always to be administered in a manner consistent with the child's human dignity. Article 34. Protection from all forms of sexual exploitation and sexual abuse. Article 35. Prevention of abduction, sale or traffic in children for any purpose or in any form. Article 36. Protection against all other forms of exploitation prejudicial to any aspects of the child's welfare. And Article 37, protection from torture or other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. Together, these constitute the child's fundamental right to live without violence. But in addition, a rights-based approach also needs to take on board the child's right to speak out and be heard in Article 12. And so when protection rights are coupled with participation rights, we can see that children not only have the right to live without violence, but also the right to know, to defend, to demand, promote and protect, in other words, to claim that right. For 11 years, I worked with children's rights organization SESESMA in the coffee plantations of Nicaragua in Central America. SESESMA fully embraced a children's rights-based approach, which included supporting children in claiming, defending, and promoting the right to live without violence. So here are some examples. Youth theatre against violence in the home. Children and young people developed and presented plays highlighting issues that are seldom talked about, like domestic violence or sexual abuse. This proved an effective way to open up discussion of these taboo issues and urging communities to address them. Number 2, the festivals against violence to children. Every year since 2006, children traveled from all over the country to the National Festival Against Violence Towards Children, where they shared their stories and creative approaches to tackling the issue through drama, murals, posters, radio, and other media. And number 3, child consultants investigating the problem of violence on the coffee plantation. In 2007, a team of children from Santa Marta Coffee Plantation became expert consultants, researching the problem of violence in their lives on the plantation, then traveling to the capital city to present their findings to a national conference on the theme of violence against children. And there's their report of their experience, which is available in both Spanish and English. Number 4, the Dragon of Violence. Children created a carnival dragon which took to the streets in marches and protests to awaken people to the reality of violence in rural communities and the need to face it without fear. Number 5, the young women's groups. Adolescent girls formed learning and action groups in their villages to spread the word about equality and women's rights, and to build assertiveness in the face of the dominant machismo in local communities. Example number 6 then is the New Masculinities program. Understanding that men too have to change their ways, adolescent boys formed action groups to spread the word about how to be a real man without hurting or mistreating women and children. Example 7, transformative research by children and adolescents. Using SESESMA's transformative research methodology, children became researchers, investigating and reporting on issues that concerned them in their own communities. Four of their reports became this book, Learn to Live Without Violence, which is available in both English and Spanish. Children researching children's understanding of sex and sexuality. Child researchers carried out a survey to find out what their peers knew about sex and sexuality and what they felt they needed to know as the basis for a new learning initiative in rural communities. This report is only available in Spanish so far. Example 9, developing child protection guidelines through multi-stakeholder participation. When new policies and guidelines were needed to help local schools get on board with child protection, rather than taking these off the shelf, children engaged with other stakeholders in identifying what made for a safe, secure school and how to make sure their school was one. And here are Sesma's child protection guidelines, I'm afraid again only in Spanish. And our final example is the weekly radio show, Children and Adolescents' Voices Heard. Every Sunday morning, Sesma's children's radio team took over the airwaves to broadcast their own show on local radio, including peer-to-peer messages about preventing, recognizing, and reporting violence. So you can read more about all of those examples in my book chapter. But based on these examples of children taking action to keep themselves and others safe, I've come up with these 6 key learnings. Number 1, no one empowers anyone. Empowerment requires personal transformation that cannot be delivered, though it can be enabled and supported. Number 2, children must never be held responsible for their own protection, but they can be supported as responsible citizens acting against violence. Number 3, to prevent violence against children, cultural change may be needed. This cannot be imposed from outside, but it can be helped to grow from within the community. Number 4 is the power of creativity and imagination. Though prevention of violence is a deadly serious subject, vibrant, imaginative actions like these can catch people's attention and get them to question old habits of thought. 5 is the power of children as researchers. As researchers, children can access knowledge about other children's lives that is hidden from adults. They can put forward evidence and arguments that are hard to ignore. And finally, we will not silence children who want to speak out against violence, but we will not put their lives at risk either. When children want to speak out about an issue that is of concern to them, and there is a risk of adverse consequences, the responsible adult's duty is not to silence the children, but to manage the risk, so that children's right to speak out can be protected and their voices will not be stifled. Again, you can read more about those learning points in the book chapter. But to conclude, building children's capacity to claim their right to live without violence is just one aspect of a rights-based approach to keeping children safe. We must, of course, also direct our efforts to building the capacity of duty bearers to fulfill their obligations, as well as calling those same duty bearers to account when they fail, and providing support and solidarity to children whose rights have been violated. However, when children are informed and empowered as rights holders and recognized as active citizens, transformations occur throughout their communities which all contribute to a safer, less violent society. So, thank you very much for listening. You can read more or contact me at my website www.harryshier.net, or of course get the book and read the chapter. So again, thanks for listening.